Hey, welcome, and thanks for joining for another episode of the Life Podcast. It's been a while since I put out an episode, but life's been busy, but it's been good. But thanks for joining us here. While you're here, you might as well like, subscribe, follow, post about it on social media. We want to get the word out there that the Life Podcast is available and here for everybody. So thanks for tuning in. So glad you're here. I think we're going to have a very special episode today. I have with me somebody who I actually kind of grew up with. Andre, Allison, how are you doing today, man?
Dude, so good.
Yeah.
Blessed to be here.
Yeah, so excited you're here. Andre actually reached out to me and was like, bro, we got to do a podcast together. I was like, I think you're right, bro. And I was actually just thinking earlier today about, I think it was a birthday party of yours down at the yacht club.
Oh, yep.
Where we went boating. I don't know why I was thinking about it, but I was just like, Andre's coming. I'm thinking about it. And yeah, it was a fun memory.
Dude,
so
that was a party.
It was a party.
We had kids in kayaks running around. My dad, I think we had two power boats going, everybody tubing.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, thanks. Yeah, I even remember. Yeah, there's lots of memories we could talk about. Lots of things we could talk about.
We'll get into it.
We'll get into the episode. I brought Andre on today because one of the things that I really appreciate about your life, Andre, that I've seen, not just as knowing you, but on social media, is how disciplined you are, the attitude that you just live your life with. Because I think a lot of us lack discipline. A lot of us have really, really bad attitudes, and a lot of us aren't growing in our lives. And I see you as somebody who is constantly growing, constantly striving to be better than they were the day before. And you seem to have the tools in your belt to know how to get to that next step in life. And I think a lot of people want to grow, but not a lot of people know how to or know what steps to take. So today we're going to talk about those things. We're going to talk about discipline, why it's so important in our life, our attitude, our mental health, and a little bit more. But like I said, so many of us want to grow. We want to grow spiritually, physically, mentally, in maturity. And today we're going to talk about why these things are so important to our growth and maybe some roadblocks we might have to growth along the way. So Andre, why don't you just start us off and share a little bit of your story and kind of how you came to realize the importance of self-discipline and your attitude in life?
Yeah, so I guess a little bit about me. I grew up, born and raised here in Hermiston, Oregon, and kind of what made me or kind of put that chip on my shoulder to always be successful and growing is Austin knows this. I grew up real chubby, real chubby, and I think
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Those of you guys that wear men's jeans, I had a 38-inch waist. Yeah. In fourth grade.
Oh man!
And my mom had to hem my jeans. They didn't make them suckers short enough. And so that's kind of the moment I realized something was off, because me and my mom were at Goodwill and she picked up a pair of jeans. She's like, "Look, honey, somebody loves their boy too." And I was like, "Wait, you mean nobody else's jeans are like this?" And but growing up that way, as funny as it might be and as fun as to talk about it now as a joke, that's really frustrating because at the time, when you're in the fourth grade, that you don't really have a lot of control over those things. You don't really have a lot of control over your weight. I mean, some kids that were young running in track, you were fast as heck, and at that age. And
Mom, this isn't about me.
I'm gonna make you blush. Quit it. But some things at that age are just the way it is, and I guess you could call it growing. My mom always said, "You grew out, then you grew up."
Yeah.
But that's something that you get a chip on your shoulder dealing with that, because you get picked on. I mean, it's something that you start looking around once you get in fifth grade and start getting into middle school and start doing a thing that is a hindrance to everybody, starting comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah.
That just made me realize that, look, I got to start making some decisions that are going to set me up for success. And the first thing to do that is work on this confidence problem I have. Because, I mean, you look at me now, I'm in sales. I'm an insurance agent. I used to sell equipment. So you got to be a pretty outgoing guy to be in sales. But before then, I mean, you probably remember this clearly. We grew up together. Elementary school, I was pretty quiet. I mean, I was scared to talk to people, scared to deal with people. I mean, always getting picked on for being the fat kid. So, I mean, that was something that kind of like a wake-up call in me, just to move on from that. So,
I do remember those days. It seems like a long time ago, but really, it wasn't that long ago. When did you really take control of your own health? I feel like maybe it was around high school sometime.
Yeah, it was. So, I guess a little bit more about my story and kind of what made me have this chip on my shoulder that kind of made me so aggressive about discipline. once I started growing out of being the chubby kid, I started realizing, look, I got to start going for runs. Look, I got to start focusing on what to eat. My mom's love language is always food. So, if you come home from school, I remember after school snacks. My grandma was over. This is terrible. She'd have homemade tortillas. Yeah. She'd hand roll them out, put butter on them, then roll bacon in them.
Oh my goodness!
Looking back now, that's got to be 500 calories
at least, bro.
And I'd eat like 4 of them.
Yeah.
So once I started running and stuff like that, and I joined swim team. I lost a ton of weight doing that, and I bet I was 12 or 13 years old when I did that. And athletics started coming kind of easy to me. Started playing football, playing lacrosse, wrestling, and I got kind of a head on my shoulder, a bigger head on my shoulders, and then God just kind of humbled me real quick. I was 13 or 14, and I was a freshman in high school practicing with the varsity football team. That's a bigger deal as a young kid to be able to play with varsity. And I was starting to think, I think I'm going to try and get a scholarship at the end of this, either in lacrosse or football. And at the time, there was this pain in my right hip, and it just was always bugging me. It got to the point where I couldn't really jog right. Every time I stepped my right leg, shooting pains went down to my feet. And I remember going to school complaining to my mom. I was like, look, Mom, this hurts. Yeah. I can't walk. And she's like, oh, you big baby. Just give me those crutches, go to school.
Classic moms,
yeah.
Look, no, just a side note. I remember one time my brother, he had his kidney was about to burst or something his appendix. Sorry, not his kidney. His appendix was literally it had already burst or was about to burst, and he had to get an emergency appendectomy or whatever they call that. But I remember my mom was like, you're not going to the hospital. You're fine. Go sit down. Mm-hmm. And 5 minutes later, I was like, Mom, I really think we need to take this man to the hospital. And my mom was like, no. I was like, fine, I will drive him to the hospital. So we all went to the hospital, and the doctor was like, yeah, we're going to take his kidney or his appendix out because it's causing him pain, So anyway, go ahead.
God is good. Moms. God is good. He weighed on your heart there. Get him in the car.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm like, you're welcome, brother. Yeah, that's the moral of the story here.
That's awesome. So, I guess to make a super long story short, ended up going to the doctor, and they thought it was appendicitis. Yeah. And they started prepping me to take my appendix out, kind of like your brother's story, and because it was a right hip pain. Yeah. And they went to take an X-ray of me before they did the surgery, and they realized I was literally full of poo. And that's kind of gross to think about. And me being a sales guy now, I'm probably full of poo anyways. but on that note, when you hurt your back at a certain area, those nerves control your colon. Yeah. And mine had shut down. Wow. Mine had kind of quit working for a while. I think it had been a week that I hadn't had a bowel movement, and so they couldn't see through the X-rays. And they're like, "Look, something's up. We got to clean this guy out."
Oh
so
my gosh.
They cleaned me out, and then they took another X-ray. Keep in mind, I'm walking around for a week thinking nothing's going on. So I'm trying to go to football practice. Yeah. I'm doing all the things that normal 13, 14-year-old kids do. And then we get the X-ray done, and they come back and they say, "Look, your back's broken." And wow. And I'm thinking, okay, 14-year-old kid again. I was like, all right, when will it be healed? That was my first question. And the doctor just kind of stopped and looked at me. He's like, well, hold on. And I was like, all right, when will I be back? I guess in my head, I was like, well, maybe I should ask a different question. He didn't understand. I was like, when will I be back? And he literally just dropped a bomb on me. And I'm not going to say the doctor's name. I just remember it as clear as day. It was August. And he just said, you'll never play again.
Oh, my gosh.
And 14-year-old kid, your whole identity is wrapped up in sports. Those friends that play sports with you, your whole life is at my mind is football, lacrosse, wrestling, swim team. That's just what I did. Yeah. And I just ripped that away from me. I just remember breaking down, bawling. I didn't know who I was anymore. And 14 years old, come on, identity crisis, big deal. But that really took me to a super, super, super dark place because I'd lost all my friends. We had nothing in common now. Yeah. At the time, I wasn't a video game guy. I'd rather be out playing sports or whatever. And my mom bought me an Xbox, and to this day, I'm still not good at Xbox. I spent a whole summer on the couch playing Xbox. Yeah. And so that put me into just a really, really nasty, borderline suicidal place where back to this discipline conversation. I gotta take control of my demons. And when I say demons, I mean those things that weigh on your heart that are not God given. Mm-hmm. Some might say those are the devil talking to you that don't serve you. He wasn't serving me. Yeah. So that time after that happened, I realized that look, I gotta figure out who I am and what I'm all about. And I kind of resorted back to kind of getting out of being that chubby kid and that what it took as far as mental toughness to get out of that. And I got a phone call from Trampus Palmer, mm-hmm. who's now passed away. I don't know if you remember that or not, but he was running the youth lacrosse team, the program, and he called me and said, "Hey, come on out and visit us. And I was super bitter then. I said, no way, I'm not coming out.
Yeah.
No, what do you need me for?
Yeah.
Whatever. I got a back brace on. And he called me out there, and I showed up, and he's like, hey, coach. And 13-year-old kid, I was like, coach, huh? And, 13, that fills you up with something good. You're like, oh, it gave me some sort of entitlement I hadn't had for a long time. So I assistant coached 1 year for the 5th and 6th grade kids. Keep in mind, I'm just a couple years older than these kids.
Yeah.
And then the next year I took over as a head coach as a 3rd, 4th grade team. And, young kids lacrosse, whatever. But we went in the first team ever to win a trophy for Hermiston lacrosse. And it was kind of a cool deal.
Yeah.
And I ended up running the whole program for a long time. But what that showed me was when your identity's wrapped up into something and you think that's who you are and what you're all about, and you kind of worship it like it's a god, and that's taken away from you, you realize that you're not worshiping the right stuff, and you're not out there for the right cause, right? I was out there for me and me only. And looking back now, I'd much rather go coach kids and be able to better somebody than play for myself.
Yeah. But. No, I think, you talked about getting down in this like kind of deep and dark, scary place after you kind of had that identity crisis. And I think the biggest thing for a lot of us who have been in those deep, dark, scary places, have lost something, have, had a similar identity crisis. Yep. A lot of people don't know how to get out of that depression or that anxiety that they're feeling. And I think a lot of it has to do with our attitude in those situations. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what your attitude was like when you kind of hit I like to call it the dark and twisties, the little spiral that goes down, That's cool, yeah. I think that's from like Grey's Anatomy or something. Shout out to my wife. She makes me watch it. I don't know. But anyway, what was your attitude like while you were in that place? But then how did your attitude kind of shift as you were coming out of that place? Maybe it was depression, maybe it was anxiety, whatever it was. How did you take action steps to get out of that?
So I guess the whole shift in attitude was when you really start like digging deep on like that darkness that you're in, the climb out. Once you get a little bit of momentum, I just really started boogieing with that. And once I got the little momentum, I took that one step out of that darkness. And really what did it was just being open-minded.
Yeah.
I mean, if I wouldn't have shown up at that practice, I don't know where I'd be right now.
Yeah.
But what really kept me going with that momentum, and what's kept me going even today, with being disciplined in the gym, being disciplined with what I eat, being disciplined at work. Because, I mean, in a sales job, there's no structure. It's not a normal 9 to 5 where there's a list of tasks that you have to get done, and your boss is looking over you. I mean, my boss doesn't know I'm here right now. I mean, most guys, what is it, 4:20? I mean, most guys are supposed to be at work. So, but he trusts me enough to know that I have the discipline to get the work done, to put the numbers on the board, to go see the clients, to do what needs to be done for the better of the company during the day. But really, what keeps me going with all of those things, back to what I was getting is my why.
Yeah.
So I guess the way you figure that out would be, maybe we should go through it right now.
Yeah, you said you read a book that kind of talked about this. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I read a book by Dean Graziosi. I think it was Success Habits. Of like high skills people or something like that. I think just look up Dean Graziosi Success Habits, you'll find it.
If I could spell Graziosi, I would.
Graziosi. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically when you go to work in the morning, like, why do you get up?
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I'm asking you right now. Yeah.
I get up because I have a daughter who somebody has to feed her. So my wife's pregnant right now, and she doesn't get up in the morning. So.
She doesn't get up.
No. My why is I believe that God has given me a specific purpose here on this earth. I believe he's given all of us a specific purpose on this earth. And each day is a new day for me to really progress in that, become, to take that potential that I have and do something with it to further God's kingdom. That's my why.
That's awesome. So like, for me, like when I was talking about climbing out of the momentum, like the why was that one day I want to be a dad.
Yeah.
Like I want to be the best dad I can possibly be. In order to do that, I have to build something, for my family so that I can spend that time with my kids. So I just it's kind of a hack I've used for since I was 14 years old, is I always just imagine that my kids are watching me, like right now.
Yeah.
So in this room right now, if my kid was watching me, would I be proud of the man that he's seeing or he or she's seeing? And when I'm at the gym, so whatever your why is or whatever the person is that you really care about that you want to provide for, and I think Joe Rogan says this too, like just imagine there's a film crew following you around and he's filming your success story.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say this, that Jesus this is not to be hyper spiritual or whatever, but like God is sitting in the movie theater that is your life. Everything that you are seeing and doing, he is watching.
Yep.
And that's not to put fear in you, but that's to really show you the weight that your life holds.
Yeah, it's accountability.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, it's crazy how many people, really show up and work hard when somebody's watching, but once somebody leaves the room, it goes back to the integrity piece.
My stepdad used to tell me, you are who you really are when you think nobody's watching.
Yep.
And that always stuck with me too. That one always scared me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, oh man, am I really this person when I'm by myself? And I remember having my own experience in life and just saying like, wow, I am this. Like if I would do something dumb or something by myself or have a weird thought or whatever, I'd be like, wow, that's actually who I am. And that's a scary thought to have to deal with, even as somebody who's young in high school. Like, wow, am I really a failure? Am I really going to be nothing in life? And can I not get a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is? Like having to face those realities sometimes is kind of difficult.
Yeah, and those aren't God-given thoughts. I mean, when you have those, so you got to, God calls us to take up his armor with those and go to war with them. Yeah. And that's something that I think everybody's got to deal with every single day because back to like the conversation you had with Clayton a while back, is that God didn't call you to come on this earth to have just a normal, average life. So that means when I think about that, I mean, am I going to be normal, average when I go to the gym? Absolutely not. I'm going to give it everything I got. Yeah. Am I going to be normal, average about the food I put in my body? Because your input is your output. I mean, if I had a Big Mac for lunch, I mean, the rest of my day is probably going to be a little off. And a lot of people don't realize how just like bad they feel walking around. Yeah. I mean, just how much that food that you bring in just affects your output. So I remember I had a cookie before I went to go see a customer. I was meeting with a big account, and I always buy dough cookies. Before I come out, I put my card on top of them, and I had bought myself one, and I was eating on the way there. I ate the whole thing. It was so good. And I showed up, and I just like was getting just like straight up sugar sweats, and I just like felt drunk. Yeah. And I sat down, and I just told the customer, I was like, whatever you do, just eat half of that thing because I just do not feel right. But getting back to like your inputs, like your inputs, whatever you do at the gym, whatever you put in your body, whatever you're reading, whatever you're listening to. I mean, you'd be surprised, like, listen to those, like, rap songs that just talk about some terrible things. Yeah, the beat probably sounds pretty cool, but I'm sure you can be a testament to this. But, I mean, that's going to dominate your thought life the rest of the day. Those words are going to start popping in your head, and it's going to take over. So just having some real raw discipline about what you're putting in your body, you'd be surprised how much more momentum you get from that. And it's kind of addicting. Because once you start feeling good, we're human beings, things that feel good. That's why people get addicted to drugs so quickly, or, like, drinking alcohol. Because it feels good in the moment. So once you get used to feeling really good,
let me ask you this, just to move forward a little bit, since we're on the conversation of discipline and really being careful with the things that we're consuming, the things we're watching, the things we're doing, being careful the things that we're reading on social media, even the people that we're friends with on social media, just careful with all those things. How can we stay disciplined? How can, like, what is the key to being a disciplined person? Like in your life, what has been the one thing? So you talked about, would my kids be proud of the man that they're staring at right now? I think that's a really great way to view things. Maybe you can share some more, like something on the practical side of things. How can I be a disciplined person in this life? When I could have everything at my fingertips, when I could go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger way faster than I can cook a meal at home, when I can sit on the couch, which is much easier than going to the gym, when everybody's talking about this, how can I stay focused and disciplined and talk about this? How can I be disciplined?
I got a thing that hangs in the wall in my home office, and it's pretty intense, but it says, comfort is a slow death. I prefer pain. Yeah. And as dark and evil as that might sound, I think it's real. In the past year, I have totally gone to war with comfort. The whole idea of comfort. There was a solid 6 months where I didn't own a TV. I just got rid of it. I didn't want one. I've only got a TV now because I tune into a certain pastor I really like on Sundays, and I like to blow it up on a 70-inch TV. I think it's cool. Yeah. But on that note, just really going to war with comfort. So that quick lunch at McDonald's probably sounds pretty great and easy, and it's probably going to save you some time. But if you go to war with the idea that that's easy, and realize how many negative side effects that has, you're going to start getting up earlier and meal prepping, or you're going to start meal prepping on Sundays. So I guess to answer that question in short, it'd just be go to war with comfort, and kind of have some supreme like self-awareness about when you're doing something. What is the harder road here? And I'm not saying our hard road like, well, I'm going to take out the trash, so I'm going to try it with one finger instead of just throwing it over my shoulder. No, you should probably just throw it over your shoulder. It's easier. It makes sense to take the trash out like a normal human being. But but on that note, like when you're going to do things like that, so I always kind of run off these 4 core principles. Like I want to be great in my fitness. I'm going to be great in my spiritual health, like with Christ. I'm going to be great in my relationships. So like with a girlfriend or like with my friends, and then I want to be great financially. Yeah. So I don't think that you can have a real big impact on the world if you don't have your finances in order. I mean, donating to charities, you need money to donate to charities, you need money to fund like having a podcast. I mean, this is a pretty sweet setup. Not cheap.
Shout out to my church who owns most of the equipment.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I think being disciplined in those 4 areas. So when you're going about your day to day, look at, I always run by those 4 areas. And am I being disciplined in those? And then am I taking the harder route? And it's kind of funny, the people around, depending who you're hanging around with, not a lot of people are doing that. So you probably look like a fish out of water.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's a really good point. I really like what you said, having these things in order. I think a lot of it too is a couple things I want to say. Number one, I have always been a proponent of like going to war with the comfortable things of life. Andy Mineo, one of my favorite like Christian rappers, rapper who's Christian, however you want to say it. He has a whole album actually called Uncomfortable, and it's about just really like stepping out of this. He says if prison is our comfort, then we judge our own sentence. Whoa. Like we are the reason that we're having a crappy life because we're staying comfortable.
Yep.
And so I've always just thought about that and thought to myself, and here's the thing too, the uncomfortable thing to do isn't always going to be the hardest thing. Sometimes we think, it's gonna be painful.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's going to be like the hardest thing for you to do. I think a lot of times we just like, the harder thing is always the right thing to do.
Right.
But I don't think that's always true. I think it can be just as easy to buy groceries as it can be to go to McDonald's and get food, It's all about attitude, I think, in that mind space. Number two, I really love what you said, talking about your finances and stuff. You're talking about you can't change the world if you can't even manage your own finances, because the Bible talks a lot about if you can be faithful with the little that God has given you, then obviously you'll be faithful with more that God gives you. But if you can't be faithful in the little, why would God give you more influence? Why would God give you more money? Why would God give you more of fill in the blank if you can't even handle the things that he's already given you? And I think that's so important, especially in Western culture today. Man, we struggle with just being good stewards and faithful with the things that we have. We don't track what we spend. I'm guilty of things like this too. I am guilty of spending money that I don't necessarily have sometimes. I'm guilty of doing those things, but I think the key, like you said, is just being aware of those things. And really a key that I kind of pulled out from what you were saying is that you should be focused on tomorrow rather than today. Just to put it into like maybe some blanket terms here is what I'm doing today going to benefit me tomorrow? That maybe should be the question you ask yourself when you're about to do something.
100%. And how are you feeling yourself, and how are you investing in yourself today? I think that one thing that nobody does in today's world and like in Western culture, like you're saying, is invest in themselves. Invest in so many other things, maybe the people around them or whatever else, but nobody invests in them first. Right? You can't, what do they say when the oxygen mask drops down on an airplane? You got to put your own oxygen mask on first. I mean, that's just the way that works.
Can't save anybody if you're dead.
Exactly. Or you can't show up for anybody else. You can't really pursue God's calling in your life if you're not showing up for yourself first, if you're not taking care of yourself. So that's huge.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thanks for sharing that. I think one thing, that's a lot of people go through these seasons where they're disciplined for a season, where maybe they've gone on, like you were talking about this earlier, but maybe they do a keto diet for 20 days and then they lose a bunch of weight. But after that, they're just like, they can't sustain that. I think a lot of people don't know how to sustain the discipline in their lives. How do I go to the gym? How do I make that a lifestyle of fitness? A lot of people are like, I'll go today, I'll go maybe in a couple days, or I don't have a plan for that. How can you sustain the discipline in your life? How can you continue to have a good attitude as you move forward in life?
So I got keto diet thing's a really great example, because like so many people like do it for 60 days. They totally cut out carbs, whatever that looks like. And then before you know it, I've lost the weight I needed to lose, and I'm just going to go back to living like a moderate lifestyle. And they just gain it all back because it's a shock to their system. So I think to me, to answer that, how do I go about just like staying disciplined and make sure this is a long-term thing for life is I just make it doable for my lifestyle. So first thing, you gotta plan the dive and dive the plan. I think our buddy Trask told me that his dad was a Navy SEAL, and every time before a dive, they'd say, we gotta plan the dive, then dive the plan. So they're gonna plan everything out before they go to do it. So if you're wanting to get serious in your fitness, look at your week. What does my Monday through Friday look like? What are my days off? When can I make this work? When am I going to have to get up earlier? Or when am I going to have to maybe stay up a little bit later? I'm not saying go out and kill yourself, but make it sustainable over time. And meal prep on Sundays. I meal prep every Sunday. I make all my meals out for the week, put them in the fridge. That way it's easy. I'm a bachelor. I get home at night. I don't want to cook. So I just pull them out, throw them in the microwave. I mean, like I was saying, it's not, like you just said, it's not always a harder road. It's just making sure that it's sustainable over time.
Yeah.
We live in an instant gratification world. Keto is pretty cool because you can lose a ton of weight in 6 days and you can look real good on the 4th of July with the shirt off.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how are you going to look come December?
A little late to look good on 4th of July.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's
It's
like
this
next
weekend.
week, you know?
But how are you going to look in December? So,
Yeah.
looking at, instead of being so instant gratification about it, how can I make this so I can do this every day for the rest of my life? And how can I mold this into my lifestyle?
Yeah.
And look at your influences in your life too. If you're hanging around a bunch of people that are overweight, drinking beer every single day, and going to McDonald's every day for lunch and invite you to go with them, you're probably not going to stick to the plan.
Yeah.
So just like our walks with God, we're not going to surround ourselves by a bunch of non-Christian folks that are always down in Christ. I mean, granted, God calls us to go out and love on those people. We're going to do that.
Yeah.
But we've got to have those positive influences in our life too.
Yeah, that's a great answer, man. Let me ask you this question. What has been like one of the greatest hindrances to your growth? And how have you like worked to overcome that?
The greatest hindrance to my growth has been saying yes to everybody. I think so many people do that. So you got a buddy you really love and appreciate. And like for me, go back to about a little bit back my story. I'm not talk too long about this, but like when I first graduated high school, I mean, I got into kind of a party scene for a little bit there, and I wasn't really living the way God called me to live my life. And the problem with that is that I had some friends that, you know, really weren't on the same mindset or track that I was on. And even to say that I was on that is not real accurate. I mean, I was still partying with them, but I was hanging around a bunch of people that that really weren't looking to grab other gears out of their life. And so the moment I realized, look, I need to start making myself a priority. You know, what do I need to do to fix what an issue is? So at the time I'm overweight again and like whatever that looks like, you know, just start saying no to certain things. So if you want to make the gym a priority at night when you get off work and you get home and your buddy invites you out to dinner, don't just say no and be a jerk. Be like, hey man, I'm going to go to the gym tonight. Can we reschedule?
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest things when you're saying no to people is if you can try and reschedule after you say no.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you have a problem with saying yes to a lot of people, one thing you do to kind of ease into that, you're probably worried about hurting somebody's feelings, is, hey, can't do it tonight. How about Wednesday?
Yeah.
Can't do tonight. How about Thursday morning we get breakfast or something like that, whatever that looks like. So the biggest hindrance to my growth was just being a yes man.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I was actually expecting a different answer. I feel like, well, not because, for any particular reason, but I think most of us are hindered in our growth, whether that's in physical fitness, in spiritual maturity, whatever it is. We're hindered just because there are so many distractions in life. And I mean, obviously that's a distraction. Saying yes to everybody to do all those things is a huge distraction. But for so many of us, dude, like, look at our screen time on our phones.
Oh boy.
How long are we spending on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook? And again, I'm guilty of that. I had to set screen time limits on my phone, and my wife knows the password. I don't know the password. If I want more time on something, I'm like, hey, Kinsey, you want a massage? Can I rub your feet? Also, give me the password, but I love you. You know what I'm saying? Right. So a lot of us just struggle with so many different things in our life that we can turn to and distract us from the really important things in life. How many times have you tried to open your Bible and you're like, oh, but I just got a notification from Facebook. I got to check that. I just got a message. Because distractions are so prevalent. I love that you said that you didn't have a TV in your house for 6 months. That's amazing. My wife and I just moved into a new house, and one of the things that we've been talking about is we don't want to have a TV in our bedroom.
Get it out of there.
Yeah, because we don't now. Our mattress is on the floor because we're doing some renovations and stuff. So haven't moved a ton of stuff in yet, but it hinders our growth as a couple, and it takes away from the intimacy that we could be forming in that time that we would instead be watching TV. Now, is it okay to watch TV late at night out in the living room sometimes and hang out? Absolutely. It's definitely time to build a relationship, but to have that in the bedroom is just asking for it to distract us. So I think a lot of people, what they really need to do is be proactive and take away those things that distract you. For example, if somebody has an addiction to pornography, maybe they shouldn't have Wi-Fi in their house. That would be a great way to solve a problem like that. And I'm not saying that that's for everybody, but what I am saying is it takes away that option that it is available to just take it away completely. One of my favorite preachers, Judah Smith, he says this: if something has a hold of you, just give it away. Just get rid of it. Because as soon as you get rid of it, you take away the power that it has over your life. Right. And I think that's powerful. So saying no to people is sort of that same way, and having distractions in our life are just, we need to learn how to say no to those things and take them away before they even have a chance to take us off the path that God has called us to. So
yeah, even learning how to say no, not even just like to people, like you're saying, but no to distractions, period.
Yeah.
I mean, and feeling empowered when you do that.
Yeah.
You should be excited about the fact you said no.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on a diet and you say no to a cheeseburger,
that's big.
You should walk away from that feeling pretty dang good about yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing that, look, I just won that battle. And I think about like my walk with Christ and like the demons I've dealt with. When I say no to wherever that demon's trying to tell me or whatever I'm dealing with at the time, I feel pretty dang empowered by that because I know that I've just taken one step in the right direction. Yeah. And momentum's huge.
Yeah, that's key. I think you're hitting a nail on the head right here. Celebration is key in your journey of growth. I think we don't celebrate often enough. If you do something, if you say no to a cheeseburger and you're on a diet, that's amazing. Dude, I want to high five you.
I want to hug you.
Yeah. If you tell me, if I'm like holding you accountable to an addiction to pornography and you're like, Austin, I'm 3 days clean, I'm celebrating you because I know how hard that is. And celebration is actually, I think, very empowering for us. So I'm super glad you brought that up because that hits the nail right on the head.
We're going on a tangent here because with celebration too, I think that's another thing to look at. Look at the people you're hanging around. If they're not celebrating you too with those wins, you got to change something.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not telling a guy, look, I just started a business, and they're be like, no, that's great. You know, if they're getting kind of like, oh, geez, I wish I could have started a business or something like that, or I wish I would have started a podcast. I mean, probably not the right people to be around. Yeah. So no, that's huge.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Last question I'll have for you. We'll see where this takes us. But what would you say to somebody who wants to grow in a certain area in their life, whatever area that is, but they don't know where to start or they don't know how to start? What would you say to that individual?
That's a pretty big question because I think depending on the subject, it's different. But the first thing I would say is start small and look what do I need to change right now about what I'm doing. Yeah. So say, I don't know. We talk about finances. I mean, so if you're wanting to like get real aggressive in your investing, or if you want to start businesses, or if you're wanting to start maybe getting into real estate or start putting big dollar amounts down on like another house or, grow yourself financially. The first thing you do is look at your day-to-day spending and every time you go to spend something, ask yourself, look, is this contributing to where I want to be in 3 years or 5 years? When I started asking myself that question, like when I went to maybe skip out on the gym or when I went to maybe spend too much money on something, is this adding to where I want to be? And is this glorifying where I want to be in 5 years? Is this honoring that goal I've set? So, I mean, maybe finance is one of the best example, but I mean, what I would do is I'd look at your life now and is your life now serving where you want to be or in the area you want to change? And that might be something small. Like I want to get up earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to look at, just quit hitting the snooze button. I mean, I read a book called it's 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins, and she talks about if you have a problem with hitting snooze button, you just got to start moving your arm and count down from 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like a rocket ship. Yeah. It's kind of when I get out of bed, I think about almost like a rocket ship, like. But I start counting down from 5. Once I've hit 1, I'm moving.
Yep.
I mean, so maybe whatever you're going to do, if like, I don't know if I should go to the gym or not, or I don't know if I should, go do this, and start counting down from 5 to 1, and then once you've hit 1, you've got to move.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, getting up early to get to the gym is hard. Yeah. So once that alarm goes off.
Is that when you go to the gym in the mornings?
Well, so right now I'm on that 75 hard program.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it twice a day, but I get up early in the morning right now in the summer and I go swim. Nice. And then after that, in the evenings, I'll go lift weights.
Nice.
But yeah, getting up in the morning's hard. So
yeah. If you're watching this on video, you definitely know Andre's been hitting those weights. Just look at that, man. Look at that. Yes. No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great advice. I think we have to have a vision for where we're going. Otherwise, there's nothing we can set goals for. Yep. So knowing where you want to be is a great place to start.
Yep.
So envisioning what that's going to look like and what's going to take you there is perfect. I think one thing for me that really helps me to stay disciplined, even to start doing something and taking steps in an area, is understanding that God has given us Holy Spirit inside of us to literally empower us to do these things. God didn't make us creatures that were just meant to sit on the couch all day, that were just meant not to do anything with our lives. But God actually made us with responsibility. If you look back in the Garden of Eden in the beginning of the Bible, God gave Adam responsibilities. Before there was ever sin in the world. Adam was actually working. This is going to mess with a lot of people's theology right now. But Adam was working. God said, I want you to name all of these animals in the world right now. Go ahead and do it. God gave Adam a job. His job was to tend to the ground that was there. And a lot of us think that God wants me to be happy, God wants me to fill in the blank, but God actually designed us to do something, to not just live a life of mediocrity, but to wake up every day with intent and with purpose. And that's been huge for me in my walk, is just letting that hold me accountable to God. Like, God, you've made me for so much more than this. So I don't know what I'm going to do to start today, but I know I can't keep doing what I was doing. And that's not super practical, but I think that's something in your brain that will help you get to those practical steps, because a lot of it is in our mind. If you can win the battle in your mind, then you can win pretty much any battle you come in contact
100%.
with.
100%. You're your own worst enemy. You are 100% your own worst enemy. And if you can beat you, there's nothing that's going to stop you.
Yeah. I think that one of Satan's biggest war zones is in your thought life. If he can get you to think something wrong about yourself, if he can get you to think something wrong about what you're doing, if he can get you to think something wrong about the people in your life, then that could set you up for failure. So that's why the Bible tells us to take every thought captive and submit it to the obedience of Jesus, because we can't let Satan have a hold of our thoughts. Those are the most powerful things that we have. So yeah, man. Any final thoughts as we wrap up the episode today?
I was just thinking about what you're saying, like with what God's put on your heart, or what you've done through, like, I mean, taking action on those things, like whether that seems practical to you or not, like you're saying, maybe some of those thoughts that you're saying, I mean, wouldn't be practical to some people, but I mean, God's put some stuff in my heart that I thought was pretty insane. Yeah. And, I went to start taking action on those things, and little I know, I mean, he's laid the pathway for you. Mm-hmm. So, I guess anything that I'd say is that if God's putting something on your heart right now, or if you're having some sort of thought that you think might be a little bit crazy, I mean, you'd be surprised where God's hands have been in your life. And if you were just to start taking action on those things, and to me, like, God, that served me so well. Mm-hmm. Up to this point, I almost feel like it's a cardinal sin to not take action on what God's put on my heart. Like messaging you on Instagram, like, hey man, let's chat about a podcast. I mean, that was something God put on my heart in that minute, in that moment, and I just felt like it was just an absolute sin to not take action on that. So I think it's a bold thing to do, and it can be kind of scary to make you pretty uncomfortable. But it's something that's going to put you light years ahead. Definitely, and to speak to a lot of people who are wanting to start in their journey of growth and start getting better every single day. My goal is that every day I wake up, I would be better than the day before. I'd be a better person. I'd be a better Christ follower. I would just be better in general. One thing that's really helped me is there's this verse in the Bible that says, his word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. And I love this picture of a lamp to our feet, because back in those days when this psalm was written, lamps literally it was like a candle basically, and it barely lit up anything around you. Like you could see like your body maybe and like one step ahead of you, but that's powerful, because God's not asking us to always see the end goal. He's saying, listen, I gave you the next step. That's all you can see. Take that step. Because many of us are like, God, I'm not going to do it until you tell me what it's going to look like. But God's already given you the next step. So why don't you take the next step, because it's lit up, ready for you right there. And then you know what? As soon as you take that step, that lamp moves forward and gives you another step to take. So I think some of you guys have a long goal vision probably, but other people, God is telling you to do one thing right now. So I think that is the place to start your journey of growth and discipline and attitude. And yeah, man. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. What a doozy of a podcast, Andre. This has been great. Thanks so much for hopping on and just sharing the wisdom. And even, I mean, how old are you, 22?
Yeah.
22, you will be 23 soon. I love having perspective from anybody that comes on the podcast, because your life experience is so much different than anything that I could give to people. So thank you for, everything you've shared today. I really appreciate it, man. Yeah, you're doing great things, man. God's really working heavy in your life, and I'm just super excited to see where this takes you. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for today on the Life Podcast. Again, make sure you are liking, subscribing, sharing. I don't want to be that guy that's always saying it, but we got to get the word out there that the Life Podcast is here for you. So share with your friends, share with your family, whatever you got to do. We want to see you guys right back here for the next episode.